than 8,000 innocent civilians have lost their lives by this war. The civilian death toll, which had been reported as 7,199 during the occupation that began on February 24 of the previous year, was updated to 8,006 in the most recent report that was issued by the United Nations. According to the report, almost 90% of the fatalities were the result of the deployment of explosive weapons. As confirmation attempts continue, the United Nations Human Rights Mission, which has dozens of observatories across Ukraine, projected that the true number of people killed in the conflict would be greater than the publicly declared total. A handful of days remain till the start of the first year of the Russian-Ukrainian war. This has resulted in a rise in the level of violence in the war. The inexperienced soldiers of the Russian army are making an attempt to attack units belonging to the Ukrainian army, but the invading forces are still taken aback as they make their way to the attack because the Ukrainian army's air defense systems are continually improving and becoming more effective. Massive attack on Russian invent. In the past few days, the Russian invaders in Khan have been slammed by a remarkable operation carried out by the Ukrainian army in two different parts of the city. In addition to that, these regions were once used as military bases and munitions depots. As a direct result of this assault, it is thought that the Russian invaders sustained significant casualties. Let's take a look at the effective operations that have been going on in Kherson, as well as the changes that have been taking place in the combat zone. The explosion destroyed a Russian ammunition storage in the province of Kherson. The invading Russian forces were surprised by an assault on the cities of Tavs and Chap. The Ukrainian Army's Air Force and reconnaissance units were responsible for the destruction of one of the Russian invaders' most significant bases and ammunition stores. Prior to the operation, the Ukrainian Army did a significant amount of work in two of the settlements located in the Khan region. When all of this work was done, the only thing that was left to do was launch the missile. As soon as they had occupied Kherson, the Russian army moved their operations to a massive structure in the town of Chaplinka, which is located in this region. This facility serves as a military base in addition to housing a huge number of soldiers. The sprawling complex also served as the location of an ammunition storage facility. Do you believe that it is possible for the Ukraine to win the greatest worry of every autocratic leader is being killed in office? It is common knowledge that Putin has recently been displaying a great deal of anxiety on this matter. Because of his extreme anxiety, Putin is making a lot of irrational choices right now. There are reports in the Russian news that indicate Putin is acting increasingly paranoid. In what ways then does Putin's anxiety impact the way the war is being fought? Putin relies on undemocratic strategies. You are aware that Russia does not have a democratic political system. As a result, it is exceedingly challenging to bring about a transition of power in Russia. Putin is putting an incredible amount of pressure on his adversaries. Reports from a wide variety of non-governmental groups indicate that Vladimir Putin also meddles in election process. The consequence of this is that Putin's opponents are becoming more extreme. Many individuals in Russia are of the opinion that Putin will remain in power until he passes away. On the other hand, there are some who hold the opposing view. One of the most prominent opposition leaders in Russia, Alexei Navalny, intended to challenge Putin via democratic processes and procedure. The majority of Russian citizens were in favor of Navalny. Putin was shaken up by this, yet within a relatively short period of time, Navalny was poisoned. Once Navalny was poisoned, the Russian people felt a sense of fury. This event marked a critical juncture for Russia. After that, Putin made the decision to boost the amount of bodyguards Putin stays away from the public. There were growing rumors that Vladimir Putin had been murdered. Putin started to feel very threatened. It is well known that Putin's dread intensified even more after the invasion of Ukraine. This is particularly the case. As a result of Putin's anxiety of being killed, the Russian leader started engaging in some extremely odd behavior. To begin, Putin started making a lot of different abrupt changes to his initiatives. His press appearances were repeatedly postponed for various reasons. Putin has also fully severed ties with members of the general population. He made the decision not to leave the Kremlin palace and go outside. This palace is where all of his gatherings take place. In addition to that, Putin has raised the amount of stunt double. It is estimated that Vladimir Putin has more than 40 doubles at this point. These individuals take part in a variety of programs in place of Putin, but Putin is not the only politician known to employ the use of stunt doubles. On the other hand, the quantity of Putin's doubles is astonishingly. When Putin travels, he also makes use of these doubles when traveling by road. Vladimir Putin is accompanied by a very long convoy of vehicles. Among these convoys, Putin's body duplicates move between the several vehicles. Because of this, it is impossible to tell which vehicle Vladimir Putin is in. Do you believe that the war will end once Putin? On an unannounced visit to Kiev, President Joe Biden of the United States made a statement that the country will continue to support Ukraine in its struggle against Russia for as long as it takes. It was mentioned that we have full confidence that you are going to continue to prevail. The first trip to Ukraine that Mr. Biden made as president took place just a few days before the first anniversary of Russia's incur. According to him, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, was dead wrong in his belief that Russia could outlast Ukraine and the Western supporters of Ukraine. He had a meeting with the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and the two of them went to a memorial for Ukrainian service members who had passed away in the 9 years after Russia took Crimea and its proxy troops captured parts of the eastern Donbass. Biden's covert trip to Ukraine. According to a statement released by the White House, the attendance of President Biden was intended to reinforce the United States' unwavering commitment to Ukraine's democracy, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. He left Poland and traveled by train for 10 hours to reach Kiev covertly, and he eventually made his way back to Po. An official from the United States said that Russia was told about the trip for deconfliction purposes. A few hours before President Biden's departure from the country following the visit, United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced a new package of security assistance for Ukraine with a total value of £450,373 million. This assistance will include ammunition for howitzer and the HIMARS rocket system, Javelin missiles, and air surveillance radars. The destiny of the planet is in Ukraine's hands, according to Mr. Blinken. The United States will additionally send an additional $10 million in emergency assistance to Kiev in order to sustain Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Later on this week, the announcement of a fresh round of sanctions targeting individuals and businesses that are trying to escape or backfill Russia's war machine is scheduled to take place. Mr. Zelensky stated that the victory of Ukraine over Russia was dependent on resolve, and he believed that Mr. Biden possessed such resolve. According to what he said, the fate of the world order, which is founded on laws on humanity, is being decided right now, and it will be decided in Ukraine. He added that the two leaders had talked about the prospect of delivering additional types of weapons. Mr. Zelensky has made numerous requests for F-16 fighter jets, but the United States and its other partners have not yet given their approval for these requests. Statement issued by Russia. Maria Zakharova, a spokesman for the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, made some remarks about the trip and stated that those who, in her words, sold their souls to the Americans would ultimately fail. While President Biden and Kyiv Mayor Zelensky were inside St. Michael's Church in the city center of Kyiv air raid, sirens began to sound, adding an element of suspense to what was the most high-profile visit to Ukraine. Since the beginning of the conflict, the metropolis is frequently interrupted by the sound of the sirens. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Taiwan. Gang stated in front of a seminar in Beijing that the Chinese government will continue to advocate peace and support negotiations and give Chinese expertise for a political solution to the problem in Ukraine. In the meantime, we urge certain countries to immediately stop fueling the fire, stop shifting the blame to China, and stop hyping up Ukraine today. Taiwan. Together with the international community, we will jointly promote dialogue, negotiate, and address the concerns of all parties and seek common security. President Biden talks in Poland. U.S. President Joseph Biden made these comments while speaking in Warsaw, Poland. Putin thought NATO would break, but NATO was more united than it has ever been. NATO will defend every inch of its territory, the U.S. president declared, adding that NATO is as firm as Iraq. I just came from Kiev and I can report that Kiev stands strong. President Joe Biden stated a year ago, despite the fact that the world was waiting for Kiev to fall. Kiev stands strong. Kiev stands proud. Kiev stands tall, and most importantly, Kiev is free. The President of the United States said, stating that the entire world and all democracies passed the test when he invaded Ukraine a year later. We know the answer. The world reacted and did not turn its face. He added, millions of Russian citizens are not our. The following is the response that was given by the American president in response to the accusation of provocation and escalation of the war against the West that was voiced by the Russian leader Putin in his speech. The United States and European countries do not want to control or destroy Russia. The West does not plan to attack Russia. As Putin says today, millions of Russian citizens who want to live in peace with their neighbors are not our. This war was never a necessity, a tragedy. President Putin. Chazi, it is his decision each and every day that it continues no concessions to autocrats. Putin does not dispute the strength of our alliance anymore, but he does doubt our dedication. Biden added, there are stronger democracies against Putin's Russia. Hey, we will not stop supporting Ukraine. NATO will not be divided. President Joe Biden stated that the autocrats' appetites cannot be compromised and it is necessary to stand up to them. He also emphasized that Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia and Russia is committing massacres against the Ukrainian people. Biden praised Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in his speech, saying that, what do you think about the speech of U.S. President Joe Biden? Russian forces want to occupy the city of Bakhmut before the anniversary of the war. The occupying forces are attacking the city of Bakhmut. Every chance they get, Ukrainian soldiers valiantly defend the city. According to the most recent information from the front, the last remaining Wagner soldiers are attacking the Ukrainian soldiers to make way for the Russian. Wagner is attacking with a small number of troops in an effort to attract Ukrainian reinforcements. In the previous 24 hours, 100 Wagner soldiers made an attempt to enter the city of Bakhmut via the forest region. A swarm of Ukrainian drones located Wagner soldiers and Wagner dropped bombs on his soldiers. The Wagner soldiers who were forced to retreat returned with additional soldier. The Wagner soldiers who were advancing by hiding in the snow-covered forest were this time repelled by a mortar attack. Because the region is covered in snow, the occupying forces which are hiding behind are detected by satellites and shot instantly. Because of this, Russia is waiting for the spring to come and the snow to melt. However, the Ukrainian army will not allow Russian soldiers. Do you think Russia will be able to invade the city of Bakh?